Sam. Hey, congratulations for Christmas, Bloody Christmas.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. I guess it's tis the season for Christmas movies and especially horror movies, isn't it?
It certainly is. I think, if you put on Netflix or what have you, you're just inundated with wholesome Christmas family content. So this hopefully gets to break it up a little bit.
That is true. That is true. So tell us what initially drew you to Christmas, Bloody Christmas.
Look, it was the writing. I think you get asked to do horror films here and there, and you read a bunch of them, and a lot of exactly the same thing, or they're trying to be a lot more than they are. Whether that I think these days everyone's aiming for this sort of A24 art house sort of thing, but very few reach that. Where Joe was sort of the opposite. He was like, I want to take this back, shoot it on 16 millimeter. Almost go this old school slasher route. And when I read the script and with the first half of the film, almost reading like a sort of buddy movie, I thought, oh, this isn't like anything I've read. It's almost like High Fidelity meets Terminator in a way, with all the music references and things like that. So initially honestly, it was the dialogue and the scenes. And I thought, hey, a Christmas horror film, why not?
Yeah, why not? Have you done a lot of horror films yourself?
Not a whole heap. I have done one many years ago. The first film I ever did when I was a younger actor was a film called The Marshes, set in rural Australia. Sort of a take on some Australian folklore out in the bush, but a very different sort of dynamic. That was obviously shot mostly during the day in the harsh Australian heat, whereas this entire shoot was night shoots in the cold. So it was very, very, very different. But that was really my only sort of horror experience previously.
I was going to say this film, plenty of nights and plenty of cold too, wasn't it?
It was it was the entire shoot was night shoot, so we were sort of wrapping up at about 8 a.m, and that certainly takes a toll on your body towards the end of the run. But it adds to the dynamic and adds to the flavor of the film and our performances. I mean, it's cold in the movie, it's cold in real life. You're tired, you're exhausted, you're running around, and I think we shot it in Placerville in El Dorado County, in this wonderful little town and the surrounding areas, and they really opened up to us. And it certainly adds to the atmosphere.
In your words, what suppose is the big attraction of combining Christmas with scary movies at the same time?
That's a good question. I think sort of what I said earlier, in the fact that we're so inundated with wholesome family Christmas content that it's so refreshing to see a genre mash, which is something you so associate with happiness and lightness and fun and family times, with a genre that is darkness and blood and gore. And I think, I mean, even the vibe and the lights, for example, during the festive season, this sort of red, green and blue, and just with the blood splatter, it's like, why not? It's perfect. You know what I mean?
So how did you like Joe's direction for him? I mean, I spoke to Joe. He's quite a person. So
Joe is a unique creature. I remember first meeting Joe in my initial audition, and I had no idea what to expect. He's got a big beard. He's a real hardcore horror man, and I initially was intimidated. I thought, geez, what's this guy going to be like? But really underneath it all, he's a sweet man and super passionate. And I think that's what sold me, was the fact that he has a very particular vision of how he wants his films to be. For instance, shooting on 16 millimeter, from the set design to the casting to every little thing. And he allowed me and Riley, which not that many directors do, allowed us to improvise, allowed us to really play and throw our ideas into the mix. And so with that, him just steering us in the right direction, I think, we were able to create a very, I suppose, naturalistic dynamic between me and Riley.
So you are much more of an actor that likes to improvise, or you just like to take the opportunity, especially in this.
I love improvisation, and honestly, any chance I can get. I mean, it's pretty rare, of course. You know, you want to adhere to the writing and what the writer or director's done. But I think improvising allows you to add a certain element to something that otherwise can't be found. I mean, whether it's a little funny line or a quip here and there, or whether it's a whole scene, I think there is a realistic element that it just adds to it. You know what I mean? And I think it is a rare thing, and it takes a lot of trust for a director to allow his cast to do that. But Joe had a lot of trust in us, which is amazing.
So tell us about developing this chemistry with Riley through the film. I mean, you know, I've seen her in other movies before, and she's usually a wholesome person, but she's very different in this film.
She is. Look, she's very much playing against type, and she did such a sensational job. And look, throughout the film, you know, like I said, very quickly, me and Riley developed our chemistry. But we, as each scene progressed, we got to know each other more and more and more. Joe really made a huge emphasis on when we weren't shooting, we should hang out, get a beer in town, you know, do all that stuff. And I think it really shows in the movie, to be honest with you. I think I'm personally very happy with the dynamic that comes across. And like I said, I mean, you don't always get along with your co-stars, such as, you know, any business. But everyone on this film across the board with the cast got along with each other, which is amazing.
Now, one of the funnest things in a horror movie like this is to get down and dirty in many, many different aspects. Tell us about the preparation, you know, especially, I guess, the stunts and fight choreography for yourself.
Yeah, look, it was from the get-go, Joe obviously made it very clear it's going to be a very physical movie. And we had a great stunt team that, you know, slowly worked with us through the various, I suppose you could call them action sequences. And it's like a dance, you know, you start slow and you build up all the steps. And then eventually you're like, okay, great, let's run it. Let's get the camera in. And then honestly, you hope for the best. And there's always going to be happy accidents, you know, as you'll see in the film. Obviously, there's a lot of slips and tumbles and falls that were not choreographed, but made it into the final cut.
Does it help with the director like Joe, who loved the use of practical effects rather than CGI effects on a horror set?
Oh, 100%. I think having something tangible there to work with is always amazing. I mean, you know, the effects team did an incredible job with prosthetics and head molds and things like that. So, you know, if a head splits open, it's actually a physical head splitting open. It's blood is spurting. And, you know, I've so often worked on things where, you know, you're acting to a piece of tape on a wall or some CGI or a green screen. And Joe really, really made an emphasis similar to what they used to do back in the 80s, which was all practical effects. And it really, I think, gives a certain quality to it, almost a throwback feel. And I think, yeah, that amazing to work with.
So in this case, how did you approach with someone in a Santa Claus suit chasing you through most of your scenes?
You just have to lean into the absurdity of it, I think. You know, I certainly had a couple of moments where I was looking around the town with all the Christmas lights and our wonderful actor, Abram Ben Ruby, playing Santa, who's a towering figure. He's about 6'6", you know, with his boots and his whole Santa suit. And I remember thinking, my wildest dreams, this doesn't happen. But let's just lean into it and go with the flow. And yeah, it was honestly a great time.
Most excellent. Well, Sam, what's up next for you?
I've just wrapped a Disney Plus series in Australia, which is our first Disney Plus original, which is really exciting. It's called Last Days of the Space Age. It's set in the late 70s in Perth in Western Australia. I can't really say too much about it, but I play the CEO of an energy company, and that's really all I can say.
That is terrific. And before I go, Sam, is it very easy for you to drop your Australian accent for a movie like this?
This was my first film shot in the United States, but I think, look, it was actually something I was very nervous about. I am quite confident in it, but obviously when you're just surrounded by Americans, you feel like they're going to judge you the whole time. But no, being around the accent at all times, 24/7, really helped. And Joe and Riley were really great. The little words here and there that obviously slip up, they were like, no, it's nacho, it's not nacho, you know, things like that. But yeah, look, I can personally say I was quite happy with how my accent came across, but I'm sure on a couple of rewatches, I'm going to find a few little slip-ups.
Well, you know what? You fooled me because, you know, I watched the film until I did the Zoom interview. I was going, wait a minute, you sound a whole lot different.
Yeah, sound a whole lot Australian. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Sam. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, mate.